The glass doesn't shatter when it hits the marble floor. It explodes, 1,000 crystal fragments scattering like stars across polished stone, champagne pooling between the feet of women in silk gowns who gasp and step back, their diamonds catching the light from chandeliers overhead. Neria Lane doesn't move. Her hands stay frozen in the air where the tray used to be, fingers still curved around nothing, her black uniform suddenly too tight around her ribs. She can't breathe, can't think, because across the ballroom, through the crowd of politicians and their painted smiles, Damien Holt is staring directly at her, and he's grinning. That same grin, the one he wore when he told her she wasn't investment material anymore. When he packed his things from her studio apartment and left her with 3 months of unpaid rent and a brother who needed insulin she couldn't afford. Someone's supervisor hisses her name. A waiter rushes forward with a towel. But Neria's vision tunnels, her pulse hammering so loud she barely hears the orchestra playing something soft and elegant for people who've never had to choose between groceries and electricity. Damien whispers something to the blonde woman clinging to his arm, his fiancée, according to the society pages, and she laughs. They both laugh, and then he raises his champagne glass in Neria's direction, a mock toast that makes her stomach twist. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. She needs to leave. Now, before she does something that gets her fired from the only job keeping her and Caden off the streets. Before she breaks down in front of these people who look through her like she's furniture. But her feet won't move. Her throat closes up, and Damien is walking toward her now, his shoes clicking against marble, his smile widening with every step like he's savoring this moment. Like humiliating her once wasn't enough. That's when she sees him. A man standing alone near the far wall, half hidden in shadow with a chandelier light doesn't quite reach. Tall, perfectly still, wearing a black suit that probably costs more than her yearly salary, his expression unreadable as carved stone. He's not drinking, not talking, not doing anything except watching the room with the kind of attention that makes her skin prickle. And right now, he's watching her. Neria doesn't think, doesn't plan. She just moves, crossing the ballroom floor in quick strides, her heart slamming against her ribs, her hands trembling as she approaches this stranger who radiates the kind of quiet danger that should make her run in the opposite direction. She stops 3 feet away. His eyes shift to her, dark, calculating, patient, and for a second she forgets how to speak. Then Damien's voice cuts through the music behind her. Neria, is that really you? The words tumble out in a whisper. Could you dance with me? My ex is watching. The stranger doesn't respond, doesn't blink. Just studies her face like he's reading a contract written in fine print. His jaw tight, his posture absolutely rigid. 5 seconds pass. 10. The orchestra swells. Guests turn to look. Neria's cheeks burn with shame because of course he's going to say no. Of course she just humiliated herself even more. He takes her hand. Would you have done the same in her place? Drop a comment below. I'm curious how you'd react. His grip is firm, but not rough. His palm warm against her cold fingers as he leads her onto the floor with the kind of confidence that makes the crowd part without him saying a word. Neria's pulse roars in her ears. She can feel every eye in the ballroom tracking their movement, the maid and the man in black. As the orchestra shifts into something slower, something that demands bodies move close together. She doesn't know how to ballroom dance. Never learned. But he guides her through it like they've done this 100 times, his hand settling on the small of her back, his other hand keeping her steady. His cologne, something expensive with notes of cedar and smoke, wraps around her senses. She tries to focus on the steps, on not tripping over her own feet, but all she can process is the heat radiating from him and the way everyone has gone silent. The chandeliers above cast moving shadows across the floor. Her reflection flickers in the polished marble beneath them, a ghost in a black uniform dancing with a man who moves like gravity itself bends to his will. You shouldn't have asked a stranger to save you, he says quietly. His voice is low, controlled, with an edge that suggests he's used to being obeyed. You didn't have to say yes, she whispers back. His jaw tightens. 4-3 full rotations, they don't speak, just move through the space while violins weep overhead and the crowd watches like they're witnessing something forbidden. Neria catches glimpses of faces as they turn, shock, confusion, envy, rage. She sees Damien frozen near the bar, his champagne glass halfway to his mouth, his fiancée's smile cracking at the edges. She should feel triumphant. Instead, she feels like she's standing on the edge of a cliff she can't see the bottom of. You look like you needed someone to remember your worth, the stranger murmurs, and something in his tone, something almost gentle beneath all that steel, makes her throat close up. The music swells. He spins her out, then pulls her back in, and for one impossible moment Neria forgets where she is. Forgets the uniform and the shattered glass and the years of night shifts that left her hands raw and her dignity frayed. For one moment, she's just a woman dancing with a man who holds her like she matters. Then the final note hangs in the air, a single violin crying out before going silent. He releases her hand, steps back. His expression shifts back to stone as he adjusts his cuffs, his eyes already moving past her toward the exit like she was just a brief interruption in his evening. Wait. She starts, but he's already walking away, the crowd swallowing him up as conversations resume and the orchestra starts something new. Neria stands alone in the center of the ballroom, her heart hammering, her hands shaking, guests staring at her with questions she can't answer. She doesn't even know his name. Neria learned to be invisible when she was 7 years old. That's when the third foster family sent her back to the group home with a note saying she was too much work for a kid who barely spoke. That's when she understood that survival meant taking up less space, making less noise, needing less help than anyone else. By 15, she was working weekend shifts at a laundromat, stuffing bills into an envelope labeled Caden, her younger brother, the only person in the world who looked at her like she hung the moon. When their last foster placement fell through and he ended up in a different home across the city, she promised him she'd get them out. Get them somewhere safe. It took 8 years. 8 years of double shifts in community college classes she'd fall asleep in, 8 years of saying no to friends and dates, and anything that cost money she didn't have. But she did it. Got them a studio apartment in a decent neighborhood. Got Caden enrolled in a school with an actual music program. Got herself a scholarship to finish her degree in hospitality management. Then she met Damien Holt at a university fundraiser where she was serving drinks and he was networking for his father's campaign. He smiled at her, really smiled, not the polite grimace rich people usually gave the help, and asked her name like it mattered. 3 months later, he was calling her his girlfriend. 6 months later, he was talking about the future like she'd be in it. She should have known better. Should have seen the way he only took her to restaurants outside the city, how he never posted photos of them together, how his friends would go quiet when she walked into a room. But she was tired of being invisible, and he made her feel seen, so she ignored the red flags flapping in her face. The breakup came 2 weeks after she lost her scholarship. Budget cuts, they said. Nothing personal. But without that tuition coverage, she had to drop out, pick up more shifts at the Grand Vincenzo Hotel just to keep the rent paid and Caden's medication stocked. She came home exhausted one night to find Damien packing his designer luggage. "I'm running for city council," he said, not looking at her. "I need someone who can fit the image." "What does that mean?" Her voice sounded small even to her own ears. He finally met her eyes. "It means you're a maid, Neria, and I'm going to be someone important." That was 14 months ago. 14 months of pretending it didn't gut her, of ignoring his face on campaign billboards, of convincing herself she was better off. Then tonight happened, him walking into her workplace with that blonde woman on his arm, seeing Neria behind a tray of champagne like proof he'd been right to leave. Now her supervisor is pulling her into the service hallway, his face red with barely controlled rage. "What were you thinking? Dancing with a guest? In your uniform?" "He asked me," she starts. "I don't care if he begged you. Mr. Holt's campaign is a major donor to this hotel. Do you understand what you've done?" Her stomach drops. "I didn't mean..." "You're done. Clear out your locker. Security will escort you out." The words hit like a punch. "Please, I need this job. My brother." But he's already walking away, already pulling out his phone to call someone, probably Damien's people, to apologize for the embarrassment. Neria stands in the fluorescent-lit hallway, her reflection staring back from a polished mirror. A woman in a maid's uniform who just lost everything for 3 minutes of feeling like she mattered. Her phone buzzes. A news alert. Mystery man dances with hotel staff at elite gala. Social media explodes. She doesn't read the article, just deletes it and heads to her locker, ignoring the stares from other staff members who've already heard what happened. The city looks different at 2 in the morning when you're carrying everything you own in a duffel bag. Streetlights cast long shadows across empty sidewalks. Somewhere a siren wails. Steam rises from subway grates like the concrete itself is breathing, and Neria walks through it all with her head down and her chest tight, because if she looks up she might start crying, and she can't afford to fall apart. Not yet. Her phone keeps buzzing. Notifications she doesn't want to see. By morning, every hotel in the city will know her name and her face, and the fact that Damian Holt's campaign manager personally requested she be blacklisted from hospitality work. She checked 3 job sites while packing her locker. Her profile had already been flagged. Caden's staying with a friend tonight. She told him it was a sleepover, not that his sister just became unemployable and they'll probably lose the apartment by next month. 17 years old, and he still looks at her like she can fix anything. She doesn't know how to tell him she can't fix this. A black car rolls past her, slows down, keeps pace with her walking for half a block before the engine cuts off, and it just sits there. Neria's heart kicks into overdrive. She walks faster. The car stays exactly 3 car lengths behind, its headlights off, its windows tinted so dark she can't see who's inside. She cuts down a side street. The car doesn't follow. She exhales hard, her breath fogging in the cold air, her fingers numb around the duffel bag strap. Paranoid. She's being paranoid because she's exhausted and terrified, and the car appears at the end of the block. Same black sedan, same dark windows. Like it's circled around just to find her again. Neria stops walking. Her mind races through options. Run, scream, find a crowded place. But the street is empty and her legs feel like concrete, and she's so damn tired of being scared all the time. The back window rolls down. Just 6 inches. Not enough to see inside, but enough for a voice to carry through. You walk fast for someone carrying their whole life. That voice, low and controlled and completely calm. The man from the ballroom. Her hands shake. Are you following me? Yes. The honesty of it throws her off balance. Why? Because you asked a stranger for help. I'm wondering if you'll do it again. I don't need help. I need a job and a place to sleep and for my life to stop falling apart. But I don't need... Neria Lane, 26. Foster care system from age 6. Brother Caden, 17, type 1 diabetic. You lost your scholarship 18 months ago. Lost your relationship 14 months ago. Lost your job, he pauses, 3 hours ago. Damian Holt made some calls. You won't work in this city again unless someone makes different calls. Ice floods her veins. How do you know? Get in the car. Absolutely not. Silence. Then the door opens, and he steps out. The stranger in the black suit, looking exactly like he did at the gala, except now there's no crowd and no music and nothing between them, but empty street and cold air. He's taller than she remembered. His face is sharp angles and control, his eyes darker than the night around them. My name is Elias Dante, he says, and tomorrow morning, every news outlet in the state will be running the story of the maid who danced with the Mafia boss. Ever lost everything, only to find your true worth later? Hit like if you've been there. Neria's knees almost give out. You're what? Not what they say I am, Elias replies, his tone flat, but close enough that it doesn't matter. He leans against the car door, completely relaxed, like they're discussing the weather instead of organized crime. By 8 a.m., your face will be on every gossip site and tabloid. By noon, reporters will find your apartment. By evening, they'll find Caden. Her breath catches. Don't you dare. I'm not threatening your brother. I'm telling you what happens next if you stay visible. The media will pick you apart looking for a story. Holt's campaign will spin you as an opportunist who seduced a guest for attention. You'll be unemployable and unmarketable, and Caden will spend his senior year as the kid whose sister danced with a criminal. The words land like punches. Neria's vision blurs at the edges, her chest so tight she can barely pull in air. Then what am I supposed to do? Work for me. As what? A maid for the Mafia? The laugh that comes out of her sounds broken even to her own ears. As my personal assistant. Someone who understands how power works in rooms where everyone's pretending to be civilized. He straightens, buttoning his suit jacket with movements so precise they look choreographed. You'll make more in a month than you made all year at the hotel. Caden gets health insurance that actually covers his medication. You get a place to live that isn't a studio with broken heating. It sounds too good. Way too good. What's the catch? The catch is that you work for me, which means you're connected to me. People will make assumptions. Some of those assumptions will be true. Most won't be. His expression doesn't shift, but something in his eyes hardens. And you'll be close enough to watch me destroy Damien Holt's life piece by piece. Her heart stops. What? You think tonight was random? I just happened to be at that gala. Elias steps closer, close enough that she has to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. I've been watching Holt for 6 months. He's taking money from contractors who cut corners on low-income housing. Last month, 3 people died in a building fire because the wiring wasn't up to code. The contractor who won that bid donated $100,000 to Holt's campaign the day after he got the contract. Bile rises in her throat. He wouldn't. He would. He did. And he'll do it again unless someone stops him. Elias's voice drops lower. You asked me to dance because you needed saving from embarrassment. I'm offering to let you watch while I save people from something worse. But you have to decide now, because in 6 hours, the sun comes up and this offer expires. Rain starts to fall, cold drops that soak through her uniform within seconds, that plaster her hair to her face and turn the concrete dark beneath her feet. Neria stands there shivering, her duffel bag growing heavier with water, her mind spinning through options that all lead to the same conclusion. She's out of choices. If I say yes, she whispers, if I work for you and you're lying about any of this, then you walk away. I won't stop you. He opens the car door wider, light spilling out onto wet pavement. But you won't walk away, Neria, because you're exactly like me. I'm nothing like you. You're someone who got crushed by people with power and decided you'd rather fight than stay down. His jaw tightens. The only difference is I learn how to fight back. The rain falls harder. Thunder rumbles somewhere distant. And Neria thinks about Caden's insulin running low, about the eviction notice she knows is coming, about Damien's smirk and the way he looked through her like she was disposable. She climbs into the car. The door closes behind her with a sound like a vault sealing shut. And as Elias settles into the seat beside her and the driver pulls away from the curb, Neria realizes she just made a choice she can't take back. The city lights blur past the window, red and gold and white streaking together into something that looks almost like fire. Where are we going? Her voice sounds small in the leather-scented darkness. Elias doesn't look at her, just watches the city slide past with eyes that reflect nothing. Somewhere you'll learn the difference between being rescued and becoming dangerous. The car turns onto a street she doesn't recognize, and Neria's reflection in the window stares back at her. A woman soaked to the bone, holding everything she owns, riding toward a future she can't see with a man whose name makes people afraid. She doesn't look away from her own eyes. Not even when they start to fill with tears, she refuses to let fall. The apartment doesn't look like a place where criminals live. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the city's financial district, morning light pouring across hardwood floors so polished Neria can see her reflection. Minimalist furniture in shades of gray and black. A kitchen with marble countertops that's probably never been used. Everything clean and cold and expensive in a way that makes her feel like she's trespassing just by breathing the air. Elias tosses a key card onto the glass coffee table. You'll stay here until we find you something permanent. Building has security. No one gets past the lobby without clearance. Neria sits down her duffel bag, her wet uniform dripping onto expensive hardwood. I can't afford. You work for me now. Housing comes with the job. He checks his watch, something sleek and probably worth more than her entire life savings. You have 4 hours to sleep and clean up. Someone will bring clothes that actually fit. At 9 a.m., a car picks you up. For what? Your first day. He moves toward the door, his footsteps silent despite the hard floor. Learn fast, Neria. People who work for me don't get second chances to prove they're paying attention. Wait. The word comes out sharper than she intended. He pauses, his hand on the doorknob, his profile cutting a hard line against the window light. Why are you really doing this? The job, the apartment, going after Damien. What do you actually want from me? For a long moment, he doesn't answer. Just stands there perfectly still, his jaw working like he's chewing on words he won't say out loud. When he finally speaks, his voice is quieter than before. I want you to decide if justice and revenge are the same thing. And I want to watch what you choose when you figure out they're not. Then he's gone, the door clicking shut behind him. And Neria is alone in an apartment that costs more per month than she used to make in 6. She walks to the window, pressing her forehead against glass that's cold enough to sting. 17 floors below, the city wakes up, cars and buses, and people who have normal jobs and normal problems and lives that make sense. She pulls out her phone. 7 missed calls from Caden. A dozen texts asking if she's okay, if she's safe, why she's not answering. Her fingers hover over the keyboard, trying to figure out what lie to tell him that won't make everything worse. That she's fine? That she just took a new job, working for a man the internet calls a criminal? That she's standing in a luxury apartment wearing a soaked maid's uniform because she made a choice she doesn't fully understand yet? She types, staying with a friend tonight. New job starts tomorrow. I'll explain everything soon. I love you. His response comes back immediately. You better. And you better be actually okay and not just saying you are. A smile cracks across her face despite everything. She sends back a heart emoji and sets the phone down, her hands shaking from exhaustion or fear or something she can't name. The shower calls to her, promises of hot water and a chance to wash away the feeling of Damien's eyes on her skin. But first she needs to sit down before her legs give out completely. She sinks onto the leather couch, her body folding in on itself. And for the first time since the glass shattered on the ballroom floor, she lets herself cry. Not the pretty kind of crying from movies. The ugly kind that makes her shoulders shake and her throat raw and her face hot with shame and relief and terror all mixed together into something that tastes like salt and metal. When she's done, the sun has climbed higher. The city looks different in full daylight, sharper, more real, more unforgiving. Neria stands up, peels off her wet uniform, and walks toward the bathroom on legs that barely hold her weight. Tomorrow she becomes someone new. Tonight she just needs to survive until morning. The office building doesn't have Elias Dante's name anywhere on it. Just a street address in the business district and a lobby with security guards who nod at Neria like they were expecting her. The woman who brought her clothes this morning, a slim black woman named Kira with short locks and a smile that doesn't reach her eyes, rides the elevator up with her to the 14th floor and leads her through glass doors into a space that looks more like a tech startup than a crime syndicate. Open floor plan, employees working at computers, conference rooms with walls covered in charts and documents. Everyone dressed business casual, everyone focused, no one looking up as Kira walks Neria to a corner office where Elias sits behind a desk reviewing contracts like he's any other CEO and not the man who terrified her last night. He glances up. You're 3 minutes early. Good. He closes the folder, stands, and gestures to the chair across from him. Sit. We're going to talk about what power actually looks like. For the next 2 weeks, Neria learns things they don't teach in hospitality management courses. She learns how to read body language in negotiations, who's lying, who's desperate, who's already decided to walk away but hasn't said it yet. She learns that most business deals happen in the silence between words, in the pauses where someone decides if they trust you enough to show their hand. She learns that Elias doesn't raise his voice because he doesn't have to, because people are already afraid of disappointing him before he even speaks. She sits in meetings where men twice her age look at her like she's decoration until Elias asks her opinion, and suddenly they're all paying attention. She reviews contracts for construction projects and real estate deals, highlighting the sections where money moves in ways that don't make sense. She watches Elias dismantle a city councilman's argument about zoning laws with 3 sentences that leave the man sweating through his expensive suit. And slowly, so slowly she doesn't notice it happening until it's already happened, she stops apologizing for taking up space, stops making herself smaller to make other people comfortable, starts meeting people's eyes when they try to dismiss her and holding their gaze until they look away first. Kira teaches her other things: how to walk into a room like she belongs there, how to dress in ways that command respect without trying too hard, how to drink whiskey without wincing, how to end a conversation without being rude, how to remember names and faces and the personal details people let slip when they think you're not important enough to pay attention. "You're learning," Kira says one afternoon, watching Neria handle a phone call with a building inspector who tried to brush her off. 3 weeks ago, you would have let him talk over you. 3 weeks ago, I was a maid. No. Kira's expression sharpens. 3 weeks ago, you were a woman pretending to be invisible. Now you're remembering you never were. That night, Elias calls Neria into his office after everyone else has left. The city spreads out below them through floor-to-ceiling windows, lights beginning to flicker on as dusk settles. He pours 2 glasses of bourbon, hands her one, and gestures to the chair across from his desk. "I received word today that Damian Holt's primary funding source pulled their support. Campaigns hemorrhaging money." He swirls his drink, watching amber liquid catch the light. He'll be desperate soon. Desperate men make mistakes. Neria's stomach tightens. What kind of mistakes? The kind that expose everything they've been hiding. Elias sets down his glass, opens a drawer, and pulls out a manila folder thick with documents. He slides it across the desk. Construction contracts, wire transfers, email chains. Everything connecting Holt to contractors who've killed people through negligence. Everything we need to bury him. Her hands hover over the folder, but don't touch it. "You want me to leak this? I want you to decide if you want to leak this. Because once you do, there's no taking it back. His career ends. His reputation burns. And everyone will know it came from someone close to his past." Elias leans back in his chair, studying her face. "You told me once that you're nothing like me. Prove it. Show me you can have the power to destroy someone and choose not to use it." The folder sits between them like a loaded gun. Neria stares at it, her mind racing through everything Damien did. The humiliation, the blacklisting, the casual cruelty of someone who thought she'd never fight back. She thinks about those 3 people who died in the building fire, about all the people he'll hurt if he wins his election, about justice and revenge, and the question Elias asked her that first night. Her fingers brush the folder's edge. What happens to the victims' families if this never comes out? They keep living in buildings that might kill them. They keep voting for men who see them as acceptable losses. His voice stays level, emotionless. "But that's not your responsibility, Neria. You didn't create this situation. You're just deciding whether to profit from it." Profit. The word tastes wrong in her mouth. Watching him fall. That's a profit. Revenge always is. Elias stands, walks to the window, his reflection transparent against the city lights. The question is whether that profit costs more than it's worth. Do you believe revenge ever brings peace? Drop your thoughts below. Neria doesn't open the folder that night, or the next night, or the night after that. It sits on the desk in her new apartment, an actual apartment Elias's people found for her. 2 bedrooms so Caden can move in a building with working heat and elevators that don't break down. And every time she walks past it, her chest tightens with the weight of what it represents. Caden visits on Saturday, his eyes going wide when he sees the place. "Sis, what kind of job did you get?" "Executive assistant for a private firm." The lie comes easier than it should. It's complicated work, but it pays well. He's 17 and smart enough to know she's not telling him everything, but desperate enough for stability that he doesn't push. They order pizza and watch movies, and for a few hours Neria can pretend her life makes sense again. But when he leaves, the folder is still there, waiting. She starts having nightmares. Damien's face melting like wax. Buildings collapsing in slow motion while people scream. Elias standing in shadows, asking her the same question over and over. "Are you like me yet?" On Monday, she finds Kira in the break room, and asks the question that's been eating at her. How long have you worked for him? 6 years. Kira doesn't look up from her coffee. Why? Does it ever bother you? The things he does. Now Kira meets her eyes, and something in her expression shifts, something hard and haunted. He pulled me out of a trafficking ring when I was 19. Killed 3 men to do it. Put me through college, gave me a job, never once asked for anything except that I be good at what I do. She takes a long sip of coffee. So no, it doesn't bother me, because the world is full of people who do terrible things, and at least Elias only does them to people who deserve it. How do you know who deserves it? I don't. That's his job. Mine is to trust that he's better at drawing that line than I would be. Kira's voice drops lower. But you're different, Neria. He's not asking you to trust him. He's asking you to prove you're better than him. And honestly, I don't know if that's a gift or a test. That night, Neria finally opens the folder, reads every page, every email from Damien to contractors with phrases like budget flexibility and inspection timeline adjustments. Every bank statement showing money moving through shell companies. Every building inspection report that got filed after the work was already approved, after corners were already cut, after people were already dead. Her hands shake by the time she reaches the last page. A photo of a woman named Shanice Collins holding her 2-year-old daughter in front of the building where they died in the fire. The little girl's smile is missing 2 front teeth. The mother's eyes are tired but full of love. Neria's phone rings. Elias's name on the screen. Have you decided? He asks without preamble. I read it all. And she closes her eyes, the photo of Shanice and her daughter burned in her mind. If I give this to the press, does it actually help anyone? Or does it just make me feel better while Damien's lawyers bury it in appeals and countersuits and legal tactics that take years? Silence on the other end. Then, quieter than before. You're asking the right questions. Most people don't. I need to know what happens to those families. The ones still living in his buildings, the ones at risk. Her voice cracks, but she keeps going. If I do this, if I use this information, I need it to mean something more than just watching him suffer. Then let's make it mean something. The sound of papers shuffling comes through the phone. There's a housing advocacy group that's been trying to force building inspections in low-income neighborhoods for 3 years. They don't have the evidence to prove negligence. But if someone anonymously provided that evidence along with the financial ties to Holt's campaign, the focus shifts from revenge to reform. The buildings get inspected. Violations get fixed. Families get safer. And Holt goes down for the right reasons instead of the personal ones. Elias pauses. But you have to be sure, Neria, because once you make this choice, you can't pretend you're just an assistant anymore. You become someone who wields power, and power changes you whether you want it to or not. Neria looks at the photo again, at Shanice's smile, at her daughter's missing teeth, at the building behind them that became their grave because men like Damien decided their safety was worth less than his ambition. I'm sure, she whispers. Then tomorrow we deliver justice instead of revenge. And you'll see the difference for yourself. The line goes dead. Neria sits in her apartment, surrounded by evidence of crimes that killed innocent people, and she realizes that Elias was right about one thing. She's not who she was 3 weeks ago. That woman would have been too afraid to hold this much power, too uncertain to trust her own judgment about what's right. But somewhere between learning to meet people's eyes and reading about children who died because no one protected them, she became someone different. Someone who understands that the opposite of powerless isn't cruel, it's responsible. She picks up her phone and texts Kira. I need the contact information for that housing advocacy group, and I need to know how to send documents anonymously. The response comes back almost instantly, about time. I'll send everything in the morning. Neria closes the folder, her hand steady now, her mind clear. Outside her window, the city glows with 1,000 lights. Each one a person living their life, making choices, trying to survive in a world that doesn't always care if they do. Tomorrow she'll help make that world a little bit safer. Tonight she just sits with the weight of what it means to choose justice over revenge, and wonders if Elias knew all along which one she'd pick. The airport is private, the kind where jets land without going through security, where people with enough money can leave the country before anyone realizes they're gone. Neria stands near the terminal building, her coat pulled tight against October wind that cuts through fabric like it's not even there. Beside her, Elias watches a black SUV pull up to the tarmac with the kind of stillness that makes him look carved from stone. Damien Holt steps out of the vehicle, his suit wrinkled, his face gaunt, his eyes darting around like a trapped animal looking for escape routes. Two federal agents flank him, a result of the documents that hit the housing advocacy group's inbox 48 hours ago and immediately got forwarded to the FBI. The media coverage started this morning. Campaign headquarters shut down by noon. His fiancée released a statement through her lawyer before dinner. He sees Neria and stops walking. Just stops dead in the middle of the tarmac, his mouth falling open, his face draining of color. The word comes out choked. You did this. She takes 3 steps forward, close enough to see the broken capillaries in his eyes, the coffee stain on his collar, the tremor in his hands. This is the man who made her feel worthless, who promised her a future and then took it back when she stopped being useful, who looked at her across that ballroom like she was something he'd scraped off his shoe. He looks smaller now. Breakable. No, she says quietly. You did this when you forgot the difference between power and cruelty. I gave you everything. His voice cracks, desperate and raw. I took you to nice places, introduced you to important people, treated you like what, Damien? Like an accessory? Like something you could upgrade when a better model came along. Her chest tightens, but her voice stays steady. You didn't give me anything. You borrowed me until I stopped being convenient. One of the agents clears his throat. Mr. Holt, we need to. She's working with criminals. Damien points at Elias with a shaking hand. That's Elias Dante. Everyone knows what he is. She's probably the one who stole those documents, fabricated evidence. The evidence is real. Elias's voice cuts through the wind like a blade. The FBI verified it. The victims' families verified it. The only fabrication here is the version of yourself you sold to voters. He steps forward, hands in his pockets, his expression utterly calm. You built your career on people's suffering. Now you get to live with the consequences. Damien's face twists into something ugly. You think you're better than me? You're a criminal. You hurt people for money. Yes, Elias says simply, but I don't pretend I'm saving them while I do it. The agents take Damien's arms, start walking him toward the terminal building where paperwork and lawyers and the long process of justice wait. He twists back, his eyes locked on Neria, his voice rising to a shout. You were nothing when I found you. Nothing. And you'll be nothing again when he's done with you. The words should hurt. They're designed to hurt. But Neria just watches him being led away, watches him stumble and cry and rage against hands that won't let him go, and all she feels is tired. Not triumphant, not satisfied, just exhausted by how much energy she wasted caring what he thought of her. When he's gone, disappeared into the terminal building, she turns to Elias. He's right about one thing. The evidence would never have been found without you, without breaking laws to get it. True. So how is what we did any different than what he did? Elias considers this, his jaw working. The wind picks up, whipping his coat around his legs. Intent doesn't erase consequence. We broke laws. People will call us criminals. They're not entirely wrong. He meets her eyes, and something in his expression softens. Barely, but enough that she notices. But we broke laws to save lives, not profit from deaths. That difference might not matter in court. It matters to me. Does it matter enough? I don't know. His honesty catches her off guard. Ask me again in 10 years when I can see what kind of person this work turned me into. Neria looks back at the terminal, at the building where Damien's life, as he knew it, just ended. You could have ruined him completely, made him suffer more. Why didn't you? Because you didn't want me to, and I decided your opinion matters more than my satisfaction. He starts walking toward the parking lot, his footsteps crunching on gravel. That's either growth or weakness. I'm still deciding which. She catches up to him, falling in a step beside him. He called me nothing. He's wrong. You're someone who had the power to destroy an enemy and chose to save strangers instead. Elias pauses at the car, his hand on the door handle. That's not nothing, Neria. That's everything most people never manage to be. The drive back to the city is quiet. Neria watches lights blur past the window and thinks about Shanice Collins and her daughter, about the families who will sleep safer tonight because buildings will finally get inspected, about the weight of choices and the cost of power, and the strange mercy of letting someone live long enough to face what they've done. Her phone buzzes. A text from Caden. Just saw the news about your ex. You okay? She types back, yeah, I'm okay. Better than okay. Actually, it's not entirely true yet, but it will be. She can feel herself becoming the kind of person who means it when she says she's fine, the kind of person who doesn't need someone else's approval to know her own worth. The city rises ahead of them, glass and steel, and a million lives being lived in the spaces between buildings. Somewhere in there is her apartment and her brother and a future she's building one choice at a time. It's not perfect, but it's hers, and that's enough. The Grand Vincenzo Hotel glows like something out of a dream. Gold light spills from every window, music drifts through open doors, and guests in evening wear glide up marble steps toward the annual charity gala. The same event where Neria's old life ended and something new began. Except tonight, she's not wearing a maid's uniform. She's wearing a midnight blue gown that Kira helped her pick out, her hair styled in soft curls that frame her face, her shoulders bare and her spine straight as she walks through doors that used to be the employee entrance, but now open for her like she was always meant to be here. The ballroom looks smaller than she remembers. Or maybe she's just bigger now, takes up more space, commands more attention, moves through the world like someone who knows her own worth. Staff members she used to work beside nod at her with respect instead of pity. Guests who never would have noticed her before track her movement across the floor, whispering questions about who she is and who she's with. The hotel's new owner, a shell company Elias controls, donated the space for tonight's fundraiser. All proceeds go to the housing advocacy group that's now forcing building inspections across the city. 3 months since Damien's arrest. 2 months since the first round of violations got cited and fixed. 1 month since Shanice Collins's surviving family members released a statement thanking the anonymous whistleblower who made it possible. Neria manages the event now. Not as a maid serving champagne, but as the woman who coordinates with caterers and security and the charity organizers, who makes sure everything runs smoothly, who has the authority to make decisions instead of just following orders. She's checking on the sound system when she feels someone's eyes on her. That old familiar weight of being watched. She turns, expecting a guest with a question or a staff member needing guidance. But instead she sees Elias standing near the entrance in a black suit that looks painted on, his expression unreadable, his presence commanding space the way it always does. He crosses the ballroom floor with purpose, guests parting without realizing they're doing it. And when he reaches her, he doesn't say hello or ask how she's been. He just extends his hand. One more dance, Mississippi Lane. Her heart stumbles over its own rhythm. The last time they danced, she was desperate and humiliated and asking a stranger to save her from embarrassment. Now she's standing in the same ballroom as a different person, stronger, steadier, sure of herself in ways she never was before. Only if you promise not to disappear after, she says. Something shifts in his expression, almost a smile. Almost something warmer than the control he usually wears like armor. I promise. The orchestra starts playing something slow and elegant. Couples move onto the floor. And when Elias takes her hand, when he pulls her close and they start moving through familiar steps, Neria realizes this isn't about proving anything anymore. Not to Damien, not to the guests watching, not even to herself. It's just a dance. Two people who met in chaos, finding something calm in the center of it. You did good work tonight. He murmurs, his voice low enough that only she can hear. The event, the fundraiser, everything. You're good at this. I had a demanding teacher. You had potential that someone finally let you use. His hand tightens on her waist. Not possessive, just present. The question is what you do with it now. Neria meets his eyes, sees something in them she's never seen before. Vulnerability, maybe, Or just the exhaustion of someone who spent years being exactly what everyone expected him to be and is tired of the wait? What do you want me to do with it? I want you to keep being someone who chooses justice over revenge, even when it's harder, even when it costs you something. He spins her out, then back in, and when she's close again, his voice drops even lower. I want you to be better than me, so I can learn how by watching. The music swells. The chandeliers cast golden light across the floor, and Neria realizes that somewhere in the past 3 months, between learning power and choosing mercy, she fell for this man who taught her how to be dangerous and then asked her not to be. I'm not better than you, she whispers. Not yet, but you will be. His expression softens completely now, the control slipping just enough to show her the person underneath. And I'll be right here watching it happen. The song ends. Applause ripples through the ballroom. But neither of them move, still standing close together, still holding on like letting go would mean losing something neither of them is ready to lose. Caden's voice cuts through the moment. Sis, the photographer wants a picture for the charity website. He stops when he sees them, his eyes going wide. Oh, sorry. I can come back. Neria laughs, stepping back from Elias, but keeping his hand in hers. No, it's fine. Caden, this is Elias Dante. Elias, my brother Caden. They shake hands, Caden looking between them with the kind of knowing expression 17-year-olds get when they realize their sibling is in deep. Nice to meet you, sir. And thanks for, everything you did for us. Thank your sister. She's the one who made the hard choices. Elias releases Caden's hand, then turns back to Neria. I'll let you handle the photographer, but save the last dance for me. Always, she says, and means it. He walks away, disappearing into the crowd the way he always does, and Neria watches him go with something warm spreading through her chest. Caden bumps her shoulder. So that's the guy, the one from the news, the one everyone's scared of. That's him. He looks at you like you're the scary one. Neria smiles. Maybe I am. A little bit. Good. Caden grins. You deserve to be scary after everything. Now, come on. The photographer's waiting, and you know how charity people get when their schedules get messed up. They walk toward the photo area, but Neria glances back once more. Elias is standing by the window, watching the city spread out below, his profile sharp against the glass. He must feel her looking because he turns, meets her eyes across the crowded room, and nods once. A silent acknowledgement of everything they've been through and everything they're still figuring out. She nods back, then turns away and gets back to work, managing the event she used to serve at, helping people she used to be invisible to living a life she built from the pieces of one that shattered on this very floor. Later, when the last guests have left and the staff is cleaning up, Elias finds her again. The ballroom is empty now, just the two of them and the echo of music that's already faded. He holds out his hand one more time. The last dance, he says. There's no orchestra now, no audience, just silence and the sound of their feet on marble as they move through steps that feel like memory and promise all at once. Thank you, Neria whispers, for seeing me when no one else did. Thank you for reminding me that power is only worth having if you use it to protect people instead of control them. Elias's voice is rough with something that might be emotion if he let himself feel it. You made me better, Neria. I hope I did the same for you. You did, she says. You really did. They dance until the cleaning staff starts turning off lights, until the ballroom grows dark except for the glow of the city through windows, until the only thing left is two people who found each other in the worst moment of one life and the most dangerous moment of another and decided that maybe, just maybe, they could build something good from it. When they finally stop moving, when Elias walks her to her car and watches her drive away with Caden beside her talking about college applications and the future and all the things that feel possible now, Neria realizes something important. Revenge is what you take when you're powerless. Justice is what you give when you're not. And grace, real grace, is choosing to build something better instead of burning everything down. She drives through the city with her brother, past buildings being inspected and repaired, past neighborhoods where families sleep a little safer tonight, past the place where her old life ended and her new one began. The radio plays something soft. Kaden falls asleep against the window, and Neria keeps her eyes on the road ahead. Driving toward a future, she's creating one choice at a time. Somewhere behind her, Elias Dante watches from his office window as her car disappears into traffic, and he thinks about a woman who asked a stranger to dance and ended up teaching him what power should actually look like. He smiles, a real smile this time, the kind he thought he'd forgotten how to make. Then he turns back to his desk and gets back to work, doing what he's always done, but for better reasons now. Because someone showed him there's a difference between being feared and being respected, between taking revenge and delivering justice, between ruling through violence and protecting through strength. The city keeps breathing. The night keeps moving. And two people who met in chaos keep finding their way towards something that looks a lot like redemption. One dance at a time. If this story touched you, share it with someone who's ever been underestimated. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss stories that inspire, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Let's build a community that celebrates quiet justice and the power of choosing grace over revenge.